Hello friends, welcome to Advanced Seesaw Training, maybe Mr. Brickmo's Seesaw Training version 2.0. I don't want to confuse people out there, but if you have looked at and watched the training video that I produced for Seesaw, sort of an introduction to Seesaw, we welcome you back to Seesaw 2.0, or perhaps better known as Advanced Seesaw for the classroom. We're going to walk through a couple of different pieces today that we only touched on or didn't really touch on at all in the first video. So thanks for joining us. Please remember to connect with me on Twitter at @KBrickmo or send me an email as you can see below. I'm going to walk you through some of the things I've learned as a Seesaw ambassador and some of the training that I've gone through in my real-world classroom lab, if you will. So thanks for joining us. Let's get started. We're going to log in here in a little bit, and you're going to join my Digital Portfolios 101 class. I hope you play along as we're doing this. Let's go out and learn. If you are new to Seesaw and you didn't watch our first video on the platform in general, that's okay. You're in a very fine place. You can still learn and play along with us. But I do want to make sure that people have access to the app. You can download it on Apple, you can download it on Android devices, you can use it in the Google Chrome platform, anything that has a web browser. What I also love about it is you got Kindle Fire. This app exists on a Kindle Fire. So you can download the app from any of those app stores, or you can just go onto a web browser and go to app.seesaw.me so that you're ready for our Advanced Seesaw Interactive Learning Training. We want to get done a couple of things here today. We want to take you on a tour of some more advanced uses for Seesaw in a 9 through 12 classroom. We want to talk about the different things you can do in terms of managing your class and what that managing your class folder or menu looks like. I want to talk about some of the features that are available in the ellipsis button on an entry or after an entry's been used. Some pretty powerful things that can happen there in terms of collaboration and things you can use as a teacher for your class. I want to talk about Seesaw Plus as a platform and most importantly the skills view, and really frankly how it can, in my opinion, revolutionize how we do assessment and assessments for learning in our classroom environment, all based on standards, either national standards or district standards or PLC standards, whatever you choose. It's really quite malleable in that way. Then I want to talk about some different things that could change the workflow in your classroom by using Seesaw. So let's dive right into the Seesaw Advanced Training. You're going to experience this as a student, so please make sure your device is logged on to Seesaw. Your Blue Valley District credentials will allow you, or any Google account will allow you to join. You can link those directly. So you're going to need that portal open, some web portal or the app, either one, and we're going to get ourselves logged in. Remember, if you're on the web, it is app.seesaw.me, or if you're using the app, you're already in there. So let's log on. Once you scan this QR code, like I said, it'll take you directly to our Digital Portfolios 101 course, and you are going to be adding new entries. The key part is after you've added that entry and edited it and added your captions or whatever it is you're adding, you're going to select which student you want to add that to. You're going to pick one of those numbers that hasn't been used, and that's going to be your number throughout this set of trainings. So please do make sure that you're using the same number, perhaps one that another teacher hasn't used, and that's going to be your way of assigning it to your profile. So as I said before, we're going to start doing some work within that portfolio. So one of the things that we didn't get a chance to look at a whole lot is how do we manage our class? And if you take a look, we are on Digital Portfolios 101 here. And there are all kinds of things that we can do from this menu. This will give us a list of notifications for that class. We can add an item into our feed. There's different ways that we can look at our feed, either by just a straight up, here are all the things that have been submitted over time by different people. So we can look at that feed in real time, or we can look at it in terms of the calendar, and we can see that on Saturday, October 1st, there were 20 items added, and we can look at the 20 different items that were added during that time. So it's a way to organize our classes and look at them a little bit. In advanced Seesaw, the next video, we'll talk about class blog and how you can use that class blog. But if you want to go directly to the unapproved items, then you can click unapproved items and it will show that, and you can go back. And you can see I've got a lot of unapproved items for some of my courses that I've got to go back and look at. But let's talk about manage class, because this is where you have a lot of options. You've already created a class. You can change your class name, your grade level. The joy of Seesaw is you can have co-teachers. And so if you go to manage teachers, you can invite a teacher to join with you. And they will send an email directly to them inviting them to be a co-teacher with you. So if you are team teaching a class, it's wonderful. If you have a para in your class, that is also a great way to kind of manage that. On the regular Seesaw account, you can have one co-teacher per class. So keep that in mind. On Seesaw Plus and Seesaw for Schools, there's other options you can do, but this is where you would manage teachers. This is also where you can change the student sign-in mode. When you look, there are different versions. There's class code with shared devices, so that you would either scan a QR or a text code like you did to join this class, and then you would select on the side here which person it needs to be attached to. Or there could be a class code because you have one-to-one devices if you're lucky enough. This is really good only for one-to-one environments where they have their own device and their own journal. For high schoolers, I always suggest the email or Google sign-in because they can remember their email and password, and then they will not have access to anybody else's portfolio. With these two here, you can actually add bits and pieces to other people's profiles because all you're doing is selecting the person to add it to. There is no password that you would have to add. So if you're person number 12 and you want to add it to person number 13, you could do that. So in a high school environment, or even probably a middle school environment, they would be able to do the email and Google from student sign-in. If we take a look at students and managing students, you can add a list of students by pasting a full list. If you're doing the click version, this would already populate itself if you were doing a one-to-one classroom where you had them log in, or you can manually add student by student. Now, when we have opportunities to allow students to see each other's work. In this situation, I have, and so I've toggled this on, but toggling it off would kick other people out if they were still using it. So I have it toggled on so people can see it. In my regular classroom, students cannot see each other's work. If we did allow that, then we could add student likes and comments. So if you want to just allow student likes, you would turn off student comments. If you want to not allow likes but allow comments, you can do that. If you want to allow the whole thing, you can leave it open like that. But this might be something to consider. If you want students to be able to comment on people's work, new comments would require approval. Here's the thing. You cannot do this in only one assignment. If you allow it, if you open the portal up, it would open it up for every bit that has been posted in the portfolio. Now you could do that, and then you could close it off right away, but then every student would have access to other students' portfolios while that window was open and while that button was activated. So consider that very, very closely if you're looking at trying to add student likes and comments in that interactive feature. We don't have the ability yet to only enable student likes and comments on certain days for certain assignments or within a certain window. So we kind of control that, but then students do have access to other sides of the portfolio if we allow them to see each other's work. You can also do a lot of other things if you don't want new items to require approval. Whatever gets posted gets put up immediately. You can toggle that off, as I have. If you want students to be able to edit the item after it's been posted, you can toggle that on or off. There is a lot to be said about parent access at the elementary and middle school level, perhaps maybe not so much at the high school at this point, but this is where you would find in the Manage Class menu how to enable parent access. In another video later, we'll talk about the class blog, but there's also a key part here in terms of folders. When you manage folders, you can create, as I've done for some other teachers here in this training, you can create folders where students can lump all of their content into particular folders. So if you're doing speaking, a listening, and a reading folder, that's great. You could have different skills. If you're doing the National Council for the Social Studies 6 skills that we use in the Social Studies department, you could have a skill folder for each of those. So there's lots of different ways you can manage folders at this menu. But then also, you can deal with the video quality. And so if you're uploading a video, you can upload it in the HD, which is the slowest upload, a higher quality, or a medium quality. I usually use medium quality because we're not going to produce much of anything after it's on our Seesaw profile. Now, this is a key part here. If we reset student and parent QR codes, if you have given the QR codes to parents to have access, or if you have posted the QR code in your classrooms for students to scan like you did to enter this class, you can reset that, but then everybody will have to rescan in order to have access. The QR code is the password to the portfolio for the accounts. So don't let that slip out there on social media. Don't post it in the hallways, because anybody that has a QR code has the password to get into your class. At the end of the semester, if you want to archive your class and you click archive, it will be saved. All of your content will be saved. Nobody then can access it and add more content. But you could always unarchive the class to make it live again, but you'll always have access to that information in the archive class. Now, one thing that I haven't talked about is the skills portion, and that is a new version or a new feature within Seesaw Plus. So we are going to take a look at Seesaw Plus here in a moment. Number 2 on our agenda was to take a look at the ellipsis button on our posts. We can do a whole lot of things with that as a teacher and a student. So if you take a look at what is down below here on those little ellipses where that blue arrow is, we need to see how we can use that within our classroom and within our posts. If you can't tell, in this portfolio I've drawn my closest approximation to an apple as we can get, but I do want to show you what this little button does within this, and there's a lot. So once we've posted this, or even as a teacher, if we have this in our feed, we can edit this item. So I can take what was already done. You can see I've drawn a picture and I've added some audio to it. I could draw more on that picture. I could add a caption. I could re-record the audio. I could delete the audio and re-record it here. Every single time we're confirming that change, we're using the check mark button. And so that's the simple thing we can do. The other beautiful thing that I love, and this helps us with group things, with group projects, whatever, if everybody has done something together, 3 people in a group, we can now edit people, and we can tag number 11 and number 14 into that submission. Once I've tagged, and I missed something on purpose, if we look, I was number 38, but I just tagged 11 and 14. It does not allow you to include it doesn't automatically include yourself. So when you're tagging people, you have to make sure you tag number 38, whoever that student is in the class, number 14, number 11. Remember, the names would show up on your classes, not numbers. But I've tagged 3 students, I've confirmed that, and now this is all within their portfolio. If I were to go to student number 11, it would show up in there. Student number 14, it would show up in there. Student number 38, the original poster, it is there. So we can edit people, and we can also add this to folders. If we wanted to add this to some folders, let's say that this was, it is in speaking, but let's say we wanted this also to be in listening and speaking. or we want to create a new folder, then we make that check mark, and you can see now it is in both folders, and the organization and the portfolios you can make are absolutely endless now. We can edit the date. We can copy and edit the item, so we keep that item on our feed, and then we could add a second piece to it and copy and edit it. If we want to share that item, we can make this public. We can share this on Twitter. We can share this on Facebook, Google+, or Pinterest. We have a shareable link. Let me show you how that operates. So we share it. We have that link. I am a parent or somebody, and I can go to this, and now they can see how powerful is this. They don't have to log into Seesaw. They just see this one entrance, this one entry, and
so you
they
would
can
say
hear,
that, or you would,
and they have access to that which we've just created. It is amazingly powerful to be able to publish your students' work, or for them to publish it, and to be able to share that with folks. If you want to download that item, you can download the item as a picture, as you can see. You can save the image, copy the image, do what you need to with that. And if we look at download audio, you can
so you
download
would
the
say
audio
that,
by doing the same thing here in downloading that audio file. This is where I think it can get very interesting, especially when we're looking at publishing our students' work or having it available for parent-teacher conferences. If everybody has done a video assignment on Seesaw, you can get the item QR code. And what I really love about this is it keeps a little picture of whatever it was. Maybe it was a picture of your student. But you could, as you see here, right-click on the image, save it as, or you can print, and it'll print the QR code. But if we save this as an image, or if we copy the image, now we can print these out and have them ready in our classroom for parent-teacher conferences or back-to-school night or whatever the case might be, and we can publish all of this information. And literally, that parent would scan the QR code and that video would come up. And that parent would be able to see, or that patron would be able to see, the work that we're doing here. Now, if we take a look, there is the ability then, like I said, to print this. The key part is that you're going to need to disable any sort of pop-up blockers. You may have seen that that is popping up. So if I allow pop-ups for Seesaw, now this shows up from person 11, person 14, and one other. It was posted on October 1st, 2016. You can see that it is this, but also you can have the QR code. And if you scan that QR code, it is a public link to that one item, not the portfolio itself. And you can now listen and see that drawing. If it was a video, the QR code would be a link that would play the video and the audio. And it is an amazingly powerful tool to be able to, again, like I said, publish the information that your students are putting together. This also works if you are app smashing. And so if you create a video in some program like green screen program, and you've published then that MP4 into Seesaw, you would see that video with that green screen and that file that was created in full view on your camera or device, and just by scanning that QR code, you'll be able to, or anyone will be able to see that information. And it requires no logon. It's not public out on the web. You need the QR code to get there, and it is a pretty powerful tool for use in our classroom. So when we're looking at this little feature here, there's so much we can do in terms of these items. Now, I do want to also point out that if I am the teacher here, and if I want to send this information out to everybody, I can send it to everybody within this portfolio group. I don't want to do that because I don't want to add that to everybody's profile. Or you could save it to yours profile, and if the students then can copy and edit that onto their timeline. So this is a way you can hand out information digitally. Maybe you have a PDF of a worksheet and you want them, or an image of a worksheet, and you want them to take that worksheet and annotate over top of it and add that to their profile or portfolio. You can do that with this share feature or copy and edit feature that you can see here in our little ellipsis menu. And we'll talk about some of these other pieces on this menu box here in a second. But thanks for sticking with me, and let's keep going. So remember, I just mentioned that thing about app smashing. There are so many different apps that you can use if you're using an iPad or even some of the other apps that are out there on devices that you can, as long as you get the file, an image file or a PDF or a video file, you can use those apps. You can use any of the apps that you see here and more in order to create a post, upload the file, and then allow students to do something with that within their digital portfolio. Gone are the days of the portfolios that are binders and paper. We've moved well beyond that in 2016. We are now able to do that and so much more with these app smashing ideas and this digital portfolio that Seesaw really offers us. So I wanted to include that. This was from our last presentation or our last video I did, but these apps right here are all great opportunities for you and your students to app smash and put some more things together within your portfolio. Let's talk about Seesaw Plus. It is part of the new rollout of Seesaw that is something that teachers can purchase individually and use individually in their school classrooms. Seesaw does have the free version, which is and always will remain free, but Seesaw Plus allows you to do so much more. And it's $10 a month. You can purchase it, department money, school can pay for it, your personal account, whatever you work out. It's a significant learning tool that can be used within your classroom. And I just pulled up Seesaw's website, not because I'm trying to sell you on it, because I don't make any commission on this at all. In fact, I can give you a free month of it if you scan the QR code at the end of this. But I just want to show you what it can do, and I'll show you it in real time here in a moment. But the key part is the skills platform. You can see progress and attach skills analysis or skills assessment to each submission and track that assessment for each student and as a class using a simple 1 to 4 star rating. You can fully customize those learning goals and those objectives. You can actually record private notes on student work. If you want to make a note about that student's piece or that student's work, that you want to call that back during parent-teacher conferences or in a conference with students, you can. You can also make a private post that, if you want to gather your exemplars, for use as examples in your class, you can do that with Seesaw Plus. So again, it is a paid subscription, but it is pretty powerful. And especially if you're doing work in a PLC towards common assessment, or towards common learning targets or common skills goals, this is a phenomenal tool. So I want to show you what it looks like in our class, in our social studies department, as some of us are looking at the National Council for Social Studies standards and how we can bring those to life and assess those for our students. So we're going to take a look at that in the real portfolio. Here we are back in the portfolio, and again, I'm the teacher, so I'm showing this to you from the teacher side. You are no longer needing to use your student account, but you can watch along with this here. So we go to our main menu, and we're talking about skills, if you remember. And if we go to Manage Class, what I said we haven't done and what we haven't looked at is the skills portion. So we're going to manage skills from this menu, and you can see that I have the 6 standards or the 6 skills that the National Council for the Social Studies in the C3 framework has identified that graduating seniors in a social studies classroom should be able to master or show mastery in. And I've organized them into skill 1 through 6. Skill 1 is questions and inquiry. Skill 2 is disciplinary tools. Skill 3 is gathering and evaluating sources. Skill 4 is claims and evidence. 5 is communicating conclusions. And 6 is taking action. Now, I've created some other ones. We can archive those. If I wanted to restore it, I could. But I've got the ability to look at these skills, and I can create them. If you take a look at number 1, I've called it questions and inquiry. I can assign it to a subject if I want, but the quick code is skill 1. And here is the neat part. You can enter your own description, and you can see that skill 1 is developing questions and planning inquiries. Questions and the desire to answer them give life to inquiry and thus our social studies framework. Questions arise from students' innate curiosity about the world and from efforts to make sense of how the world works. So I can have an assignment that is just looking at that skill alone, and I can assess them and look at that skill as it applies to that particular entry. So I've gone through and I've got my skills there. If I wanted to add a new skill, you can enter all of that information. If you are a teacher that is teaming with another, they also would have access to this feature and the skills portion. If you're doing this in PLCs, you would have to have each teacher in the PLC create that. Or if we had Seesaw for Schools, we could have this entered for everybody to use across the system. But that's a discussion for another day. So let's see what it looks like when we are assessing this and using this as an assessment tool. We go back to the managed class. Let's take a gander at, well, let's go to one of my live classes. Let's go to Economics Hour 4. We can see that I have some unapproved items, and I want to take a look at some of these unapproved items in terms of my classes. So they had to do a post on describing the change in demand, a decrease in demand for avocados. Allison Smith decided that she was going to summarize this based on all of her student feedback on this situation. She took a picture of this. She's added her annotation. I, as I showed you before, can make a comment. This is a great summary of the change in demand for avocados. Now I can post that, but here's the thing. I could, if I wanted to, make a private teacher comment. She would not be able to see this, but I don't know what the need for that is, or you can make an audio recording of it. That's part of Seesaw Plus. The other part of Seesaw Plus is the skills. So we click on that little graduation cap, and you can see here that I've got all of my skills. If I don't remember what the description was, I can click the little info box, and it'll show me. And I'm going to say that this is going to be disciplinary tools. And I've assigned disciplinary tools to this one, and I can give it a 1-star, which is red, a 2-star, which is yellow, a 3-star, which is green, and a 4-star, which is a brighter green. I think she did a pretty good job on this one. I'm going to give her 4 stars. The difference here, though, is that this does not connect with our LMS. This does not connect with the students either. Currently, students cannot see how we have assessed this. I'll show you where we could use that and be better with this. So I've tagged this. It's got a skill associated with this. It has my comment. I can now approve that post, and it is no longer in my area to be approved. So what does this mean? Well, if I go to Skills View now on the menu, I can look at this and I can see all of my students in terms of what they're doing in skills 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can take a look that this was Allison Smith's score that we just did in disciplinary tools. I can click on that and it will show me for all of that standard, for all of those skills, it will show me all of the things in Allison Smith's file for disciplinary tools. And if I wanted to, I could print a PDF of all of those entries and talk about a powerful tool for student-led conferences or a powerful tool for parent-teacher conferences where we are only looking at disciplinary tools and disciplinary skills, and here we have that printed out. The options and abilities are endless with that view. Now, let's go back to Skills View. I can filter. Let's say I want to look at claims and evidence. I just want to look at how my students are doing with claims and evidence across the board. And I can look and see that we're doing pretty good so far. Justin hasn't turned something in. Okay, let's take a look at Madeline. If we've got this, well, she's got a 2-star, a 4-star, and a 2-star. I might be able to have a conversation with her about this, or that could be part of our discussion at parent-teacher conferences. But if I go back to, I can clear that selection, we go back to the class. This is what I love. If it's parent-teacher conferences, I have Allison Smith's parents in front of me. I can filter just by Allison Smith. And I can look at this and I can say, let's take a look at skill 2. Look at what she's doing. It's pretty amazing. If we take a look at skill 3, here's some information that she's been putting together. If we look at skill 4, here's some information and some submissions and a rubric that I've used in class that we can use. If we look then at skill 5, here's where she's using skill 5. And so we can look at this just looking at Allie Smith's profile and just looking at this in front of her parents. And we can clear the selection, and we got another parent show up, and we now can go back. I am so excited about what Seesaw Plus offers us in terms of skills that we need to really jump on board with this in order to make our assessment for learning that much more significant. Well, I really hope that you have learned a lot more about what Seesaw and even Seesaw Plus can do for your class. The last part I wanted to mention is workflow for your classroom. This is only scratching the surface of what Seesaw can do as a platform, but you definitely can use Seesaw as a way to organize portfolios and evidence of learning. I've got a friend up in Milwaukee who teaches high school world history, and he calls his celebrations of learning. Imagine the power of a student-led conference using their portfolio to talk about with their parents where they are learning, what they are learning, where their learning falls on the spectrum in terms of mastery, and it allows you to see that analysis and reflection in real time. We don't often get a chance to do reflection on our learning, and we don't make time for it in a lot of our classes, mine included. But this can allow you to do that. It can also, as I've shown you, give you an opportunity to send meaningful feedback to students through comments. Hopefully we'll be able to send feedback to students through the skills view, but even then you can take those skills and you can enter it into our grade book as a non-point bearing assignment, and they can still see that information. It's a couple extra clicks and types for you, but that is a way that you could use this in your workflow. You can organize with folders, organize it by unit, organize it by content area or the standards or whatever your AP periods might be that you're having to look at in your content. But one of my favorites is it's a platform to extend learning and reflection and submission beyond the school hours and beyond the school walls. You might not be in your classroom, you might have a sub, and you've got them in a captive situation to learn. You can have a video, you can be in that video like I am here with Microsoft Mix, and then you can also allow them to collaborate, interact, and submit the assignments, and you don't ever have to have any papers involved at all. So there are some real powerful ways to use Seesaw and Seesaw Plus in our classrooms as part of our workflow, and we just have a few more things that we want to wrap up. So I want to again offer this as a tool that is free. Seesaw Plus is free for 2 months, and if you scan the QR code you're going to see here in a minute, you can get an extra month added on there. So let's wrap this thing up. As I said in the last training, in the initial training, there are so many resources out there for Seesaw to learn about. There is the Seesaw Student Challenge, which allows grade level plans K through 12. One of my favorites are the PD in your PJs, the tutorials live, or you can watch the recording of those professional development sessions online, much like this has been a video. They use the video formatting as well. And there are tons of tutorial videos that you can find on Seesaw. Like I mentioned before, in order to get a free month of Seesaw Plus beyond your 2-month subscription, please scan that QR code, and it's free. I don't get paid for it, but it allows you to get a free month beyond that 2-month trial. You get 60 days for free, and I can give you 30 extra days when you scan that QR code. So please do take advantage of that. It's an awesome way to dive in with Seesaw Plus and the skills view that we just showed you. And finally, please connect with Seesaw on Twitter. follow the Seesaw Teachers Facebook group. Go to help.seesaw.me for more resources or questions, and feel free to contact me if you've got any. I'm at kbarikmo on Twitter, or krbarikmo at bluevalleyk12.org. That's all I got. Thanks for joining us in this advanced Seesaw training. We'll see you out there in the interwebs.